Mentorship Academy. Here we are again on a Monday morning presenting to you another topic, yet another topic on financial management for national productivity. For those of you who've been with us for the last few weeks of this free mentorship platform, I have been presenting on various topics on financial management for productivity every single Monday. And this is in line with our 100-day journey in national productivity and mindset change. Today, we are on day 68, believe you me, 68. And I would like to challenge each one of you, if you have not made any change in any aspect of your life, in areas that have been presented on this free mentorship academy, then you need to be doing something. Remember, we said knowledge without action is futile. So let's be very, very proactive in putting to action what we learn on these various topics that are presented week after week, Monday to Friday. There's always somebody sharing on something. So, like I said, we are in this 100-day journey of national productivity and mindset change. This is a period that encourages individuals and institutions to examine how they think, how they work, and how they manage their resources in a way that contributes both to their personal development and that of the nation. So today we'll be looking at a topic which is an introduction to investment. As always, I always disclaim, this topic is very, very vast, can be approached in any way. And so my presentation is not going to be conclusive, neither is it exhaustive. My aim today is to just arouse a few thoughts around the topic so as to create an appetite for you to go and dig deeper and further into this topic. A very, very important topic, especially in Zambia. I've seen a lot of young people trying this business, that business, but I think most of them get it wrong because the starting point is not well managed. Another disclaimer I would like to make is that I am not by any chance a financial advisor. Please, a licensed financial advisor. Please consult or look for an investment advisor for financial advice on any investment that you'd like to embark on. There are several. If you need information on how to get to one, that I can provide. So let's get started. I usually like to start with a biblical injunction because most of what we do in this world is all based on the Bible, for those of you who are biblically versed. So the biblical injunction that I have to you today is from two texts, one from Proverbs 31, the famous Proverbs 31 woman. I'll just focus on the aspect that relates to our topic today. And this is the fact that in verse 18, Proverbs 31 verse 18 reads, "She sees her trading is profitable, and her lamp does not go out at night." So there's an aspect of seeing profit in what she is doing. And the moment she saw that what she was doing was bringing her profit, she worked throughout the night. Her lamp did not go down. It was always on because she kept working and working. Of course, there's an aspect of rest there, but the point they're trying to bring out is that she put her efforts and her mind and her time to it. And then we have Matthew 6, 19 to 20. It reads, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasure in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal." So both these are talking about business, and this one is a spiritual business. Do not only focus on this earthly business, because one day we shall be accountable to the creator of this world, who is the Lord Jesus Christ and God himself, who will hold us accountable for how we have managed our lives while here on earth. Remember, I said our stewardship covers our lives, our time, our money, our families, everything that you have control over. That is something that you'll be accountable for. So if we don't manage these things properly, and if we don't invest in the kingdom of God, we shall be accountable to God and find that we do not have anything to show to him. So our investments should not only focus on earthly investments where these things can be destroyed within a split of a second, but make sure you have a long-term perspective in whatever you're doing in your life. So biblical investment is not about accumulating wealth for the sake of financial gain alone, but it is that which focuses on glorifying God, the Creator. We are called to be good stewards of everything that has been put in our custody. Like I said, our finances, our time, our talents, our possession, etc., etc. So now, what do we mean by investment? Those of you who followed me have been part of this topic that I covered on the art of savings. So savings and investment are two different things. They are not the same. Savings and investment are only similar in the sense that they are both require you to be a good steward, but they are very different. You start with your savings. You could actually save money for your investment, so it can be a starting point. But by definition, I'd say savings is the act of setting aside a portion of your income for future use. So you put it aside, be it in a bank or under the mattress. For some people who don't believe in banks, whatever mode of saving you choose, you set aside a certain portion of your income. And setting it aside is in a place where you are not going to be tempted to touch, like in your mobile money. Remember, we said mobile money should be discouraged as a place for savings. That can just be used for what you use every day to spend on your expenses. So further on, the future use consists of things like emergencies, like we talked about, or you could be saving for a large purchase or saving for an educational program that you'd like to enhance your knowledge on, or even saving for a seminar or training, whatever it is that you're saving on. So you put aside this money until it builds up to an amount that you need. So you're deferring consumption. You're not using your money today, you're choosing to use your money in the future. And I gave you a formula to say savings is equal to your disposable income minus your consumption. So your savings is that which remains after you have consumed. Now, consumption, remember we talked about budgeting. It's what you have put on your budget and whatever it is that you have to spend your money on. So if you have to grow your savings, you have to reduce on your consumptions. And reducing on your consumption means you reduce on spending on unnecessary things, living within your means. Avoid impulse buying, avoid procrastinating. It requires a deliberate and consistent. Gotten a refresher on savings, setting aside money for future use. Now then, what is investment? So savings really focus on short-term goals, focus on emergencies, and they are usually characterized by very low risk, high liquidity, and fixed and low returns. In other words, when you put your money in your bank, it's pretty much safe as long as that bank is liquid. And secondly, the risk is very, very low. And then you have high liquidity. In other words, you can access that money anytime and use it for consumption. But the returns are very low. Those of you who have put money in a bank account, fixed bank account, you'll notice the interest rates may not be as attractive as what other investments will be offering. So that is savings. Now, what does it mean to invest? Investing means contributing money to a cause with a goal of reaping a return or a profit in future. You're anticipating to get an income from your investment, like on a monthly basis, or a gain from that investment. For instance, if you invest in property, be it a piece of land you buy and hold, there will be an appreciation in that value. When you sell the property many years down the line, you will get a gain. If you invest in a flat or a house and put it on rent, you're going to reap two benefits. One, you'll have income, then you'll have a gain, a capital gain. Later in life, when you decide to sell the property, most likely you'll sell it at a value higher than what you purchased it for. So now this is investment where you're actually putting money in a cause with a goal to make more money. So investment puts money to work. The money is not passive. It requires an outlay of cash, like instantly. Today, you put in money, you put in your effort, you put in your time, you put in your resources, Unlike savings, you just get your money, put it in the bank, and go to sleep. But for investment, you need to back it up with time and effort. You ought to be doing something in order to grow that money. Like we talked about the Proverbs 31 lady, she actually put in effort. She didn't turn off her lamp. She burnt it overnight. That was effort. And that was time. She forfeited part of her luxury of sleep in order to do whatever she was doing. And most likely she put in money, because business involves buying and adding on value to something and then selling it at a profit. So investment funds are examples of some of the things that you could invest in. For instance, if you buy stocks, I gave an example of real estate. If you buy stocks or bonds, you put money in a treasury bill or a bond and you wait for it to grow. But if you buy stocks, after a while, those stocks will have gained value. You sell them and get capital gains, or you'll be paid a dividend along the line as the stocks perform. So there are several ways that you can invest. Now, the topic today is not about choosing what investment. It's an introduction to investment. So I'm not going to line up all the various investments you need to be doing. That could be a topic for another day. But today it's an introduction. What are the basics that you need to think about or to do before you embark yourself into any investment venture? So like I said, investment requires an outlay of resource today, including efforts, time, and money for a greater payoff in the future. So seeing that the benefit and the reward is coming in the future, it's not instant, it's in the future. Now remember, it's futuristic in nature, and so the future is unpredictable. So there's an aspect of risk there. We are not always guaranteed that whatever we invest in will reap rewards. A lot of people have burnt their hands where you put money in an investment and you have lost money. So because of the risk, because there's a time aspect, a lot of things can change in the economic environment, in your health, or in the nature of business. Customers may not respond the way you anticipated. They'll respond to your product if you're selling product or services. Your clients may not respond the way you anticipated. So anything could change. And that's why it's very, very important that you do a lot of due diligence before you embark on any business venture. Now, use the example of Warren Buffett. Most of you know who Warren Buffett is. This is a legendary American investor, a philanthropist. He believes in helping people, in helping the needy, in attending to social causes, and therefore called a philanthropist, who is widely regarded as one of the most successful investors of all times. This man has a strategy. He invests in very, very strategic investments. Now, I'm not saying we should mimic him. I'm just using his philosophy just to lay ground on what we're talking about. He is known for his value investing philosophy. He invests on long-term approaches and he's an immense philanthropist, having pledged over 99% of his fortune, to charity. Who does that? 99% of his fortune dedicated to charity. This is great. And this man is the richest. Currently, in 2026, his net worth was estimated to be around $150 billion. That's a lot of money. Now, like I say, let's pick out principles from his philosophy. So Warren Buffett's core philosophy, investment philosophy, centers on one, long-term value creation. So there's an aspect of patience there. You ought to be patient when you go into investment. So patience and emotional discipline. It's long-term. Now, most of us want instant gain. That is where the problem lies, because maybe we don't have much time. We think we don't have much time in the future. And so would like to now fast forward and catch up where we did not plan. Whatever you do, just have a long-term perspective. So if you are older in age, you may be looking at investments that maybe do not have as much a long term as our investments, and focus on those because you miss the most opportune time to embark on investments. So there's an aspect of long-term value creation. Secondly, he talks about buying high-quality companies with durable advantages. So he just doesn't buy any company that's on sale. He's very, very strategic. So he has the principle of strategy. So be strategic when you're approaching investment. He looks only for high value. People have gone to him offering all sorts of properties because he's into property, and he has declined certain properties because he thinks they are not worth his time. He looks for high value. He's found his niche, in short. And then he maintains a long-term mindset. Like I said, long-term mindset. So he's not in a hurry. Even if he doesn't get what he wants for his money today, he's not going to just put money anywhere. He will wait until the right opportunity comes. And he uses the market volatility as an opportunity rather than a risk. So when you see shakeable conditions, use them as an opportunity. When the property market is crashing, he doesn't panic. That's when he goes to start buying more and more properties, because he knows that there will be a time when these values will rise. And then he invests with the circle of competence. He has found his niche. He's found this area of property as his niche. He doesn't beat about the bush going into all these other investments people are doing, buying companies that are just trading or buying stocks, only buying stocks or all these other things. No, he focuses on what he's competent in because he has done it for years. So now I'm going to move on to give you some general advice on investment. How can you be a smart investor? Know that every investment is unique and should match your needs and your goals. So don't just pick up any investment. Every investment opportunity is unique. Is this investment opportunity matching your needs? Is it matching your goals? Do your due diligence before you settle for an investment opportunity, and thus protect your hard-earned money or your borrowed money. So if you don't work hard to do your due diligence, don't let others do the due diligence for you. Be the one in the forefront to do that due diligence and assess what type of investment is this? What are the risks? How can I get started? How have those who've done it before managed? When did they mess up and how did they come out of it? So there are many factors that you need to consider there. So the other thing is you need to set very clear goals and a timeline. What is it that you're aiming for? Timeline is very cardinal because timeline will matter depending on your age. If you're younger, you have a longer timeline. If you're older, you have a shorter timeline. You're not going to go into an investment that will reap results in 15, 20 years when you're already in your 70s. Most likely you'll not enjoy the benefits of your investment unless you're doing it as an inheritance, which is also good. I would encourage that. But if it's for your own gain, then you have to look at a timeline that will work for you. Humanly speaking, of course, our lives are not in our control. We could die anytime, but at least humanly speaking, you could say in the next 10 years, I'll still have active life and be able to reap my investment. So think long-term, be patient, avoid panicking when things go wrong. Some people go into an investment, the moment it shakes, they are completely away from it. They jump out of it like a finger that has been dipped in very hot oil, not even hot water, very hot oil. That's not an approach to investment. Sometimes you have to go down in order to come up. So don't be in a hurry to exit before you assess the investment. Be patient and avoid these get-rich-quick schemes. Even the Bible talks so much against them. There are really no positive examples of gaining wealth quickly in the Bible, but rather they come in the Bible as warnings. There's a verse which says, wealth from hard work grows over time. And in Proverbs 13 says, wealth from get-rich-quick schemes quickly disappears. Wealth from hard work grows. The other one disappears. And a trustworthy person will get rich, but a rich reward. But a person who wants quick riches will get into trouble. And usually most people who gain riches overnight and within a short space of time with very little effort, like gamblers, celebrities, or people who just have an inheritance, they may not have the ability to manage these funds very well, and therefore they will end up in poverty or end up messing themselves up. You need to be patient. You need to learn how to manage investments. You need to be coached. You need to do a lot of things before you just get excited over investment. We've seen how a lot of orphans whose parents have left them a lot of high-value properties or assets or investments have completely become so desperate because they didn't know how to manage the assets as their parents did. So avoid get-rich-quick schemes and avoid going into these overnight gain investments without knowledge on how you're going to manage the money once it comes. So also embark on investments that will glorify God. So for those of you who are Bible believers or Christians, you will ask yourself, does this investment glorify God? Does it honor God? This can be very difficult for some people But asking these questions is very, very cardinal, because if you don't, you may find along the line you're actually serving the devil. So is the investment sinful? Avoid all sinful activities. Is it deceptive? Avoid investments that could involve deception, where you tell people you put in so much and you're going to reap 100 times what you put in within 3 months. That's deception. In economics, nothing works like that. Nothing can multiply in a short space of time to the extent that these get rich quick schemes talk about. And most of them happen to be pyramids. So would it disadvantage another person? Because yes, people can make money. Those in the forefront will make money, but they're actually not making money. They're actually reaping other people's money. Those who are joining in later in the pyramid are the ones who are paying for their profits, so-called profits, but these are not even profits. And they end up crashing. These pyramids crash, and a lot more people lose out. Only a few would have made the money, and they think they invested. That's not investing. That's deception. They are not morally right. And ask, do you have a clear conscience in the investment that you're embarking on? Can you pray to God to bless that investment? Is it something that you think will be pleasing to God? If answering these questions gives you a no, then you realize that maybe this is not an investment you ought to embark on. But you may come up with a type of investment that you can engage yourself, which is honoring to God, if the answers are yes. So the key is to thrive to glorify God with your investment. Corinthians 1, chapter 10, verse 31 says, so whether you eat or drink, whatever you do all to the glory of God. Meaning whatever we embark on, even investments, let the investments be glorifying to God, not only our lives, but even what we put our resources to. Be diligent. Diligence means working carefully, persistently, with a steady effort to accomplish a task. You have to have very strong ethics in order to be diligent. You have to be attentive to details, meticulous, and dedicated in order to be diligent. Investing does not happen by accident. You need to be there planning and getting yourself involved. Be engaged in what you are doing. In other words, do not just end up making a plan, but you need to put that plan into action diligently. Once you've gone into investments, try and diversify your investment. Do not place all your eggs in one basket. Diversification will protect you from financial ruin or from losing everything that you ever worked for. If you put everything in one line and it doesn't work out, it will save you from losing your money. Remember, there's always a risk involved, and returns being long-term, they may not materialize, some in your lifetime, some when you're having your good health, and so on. In fact, there's a verse I found in the Bible that it talks about diversification. So it's interesting, Ecclesiastes 11, verse 1 and 2. It says, ship your grain across the sea. After many days, you may receive a return. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8 ventures, because you do not know what disaster may come upon the land. This is diversification. It's biblical. So even God knows something can go wrong with your investment, and so invest in several investments. Now, the other key thing you need to do is assess your risk appetite. I want to really emphasize on this one. What is your risk appetite? A lot of us go into business because my friend is doing this and they're successful. My neighbor is doing this, they're successful. But you do not know their risk appetite. Risk appetite, I'm talking about how will you behave in the event that you lost all your investment. If that's going to crash you, then you are risk averse. And if it's not going to affect you in any way, or to the extent that it can affect others, then you are risk tolerant. So risk tolerance, or risk tolerant investors, this is an investor who has ability and willingness to lose some or all of an investment in exchange for a higher potential return. If your tolerance is high, it means you can go into very high risky businesses because it will not affect your health. It will not give you sleepless nights. Yes, you'll be disappointed, but you can stand even after losing so much. So if your risk tolerance is very, very high, then you can venture into very risky business ventures, which usually offer very high return. The higher the risk, the higher the return. If you are risk averse, This would describe a person that avoids taking risk, preferring stability and certainty over potential high risk. They prioritize protecting their assets, such as their money, their health, or their security, over seeking gain, often settling for lower guarantees or guaranteed returns to minimize the potential loss. So if you are risk averse, you are very, very fearful in going into business. But if you still have to go into business, it means you have to assess which business will be within your risk tolerance. So if your risk tolerance is very, very low and you are so therefore risk averse, it means you want to only venture into those investments that are pretty much certain. I'll give an example of one, like government bonds. There's no way a government will ever go broke. If you put your money there, government, it's guaranteed. Even if there's a change in government, they will still honor their obligation to pay you for the bond that you put in when it falls due, when it matures. So, but then if you look at how much you're going to earn on those bonds, which you put in for a period of, say, 5 years, and somebody who puts in a very high risk business, you will find that they are probably 100 times ahead of you because they went into very high risk business. And fortunately for them, the risks did not materialize. And so they were able to reap the returns that they put in for. So a risk averse investor would choose a safe investment over a volatile one, even if the other options, alternatives they have offer high returns, they will choose not to go there. So decision making is also affected. Those who are risk averse become very conservative in their approach to investment, often focusing on long term rather than get rich quick schemes. They will never entertain get rich quick schemes. Those who are risk averse, good for them. But those who are risk tolerant, they're the ones who bent their fingers hard. So common examples are also like when you're choosing a job with a steady salary, some people would rather go that way. Or if you're offered a capital to start your business, you find somebody says, I'd rather you give me a job where I know I'm guaranteed the salary at the end of the month. So do not just go into an investment because you know someone who is in it and seemingly making a lot of money. And I emphasize seemingly because there's this tendency among us Zambians who want to pretend we are living well. Pretend we are making money just to annoy your neighbor or look like you're doing fine, but you are having sleepless nights because what you're doing is all pretense. You're probably using borrowed money to shine around and look like your business is what is making the money. You know that your business is not making money. But guess what? Over a period of time, it will catch up with you. It will catch up with you. You find that now you're lagging behind your liabilities, your commitments, and then you have to exit the business. Whereas when you saw that the business was not doing well, you could have exited much, much earlier than wait until you show the Jones that you are doing fine. So let's not just invest for the sake of being seen to be doing okay. And let's not look at those who are seemingly looking like they're doing okay when you do not know, one, their risk tolerance, two, you don't know the details of how their businesses are doing. Maybe they're just doing it for show and you think they're making money. So when you invest successfully, what is the ripple effect? Is that you are now contributing to your personal development. Remember, we talked about investment being for national productivity and personal development. This is how it comes in. So when you invest in a business venture that earns you a good profits, a good gain, a good monthly income, you are able to contribute to your personal development. You can use that profit to do things for yourself, educate your children, enhance your education yourself, live a better life, or even employ people, provide employment for some workers who can now fend for their families. You find yourself rearing chickens and you need 6 workers to work for you. That is national development. Those 6 people would have been on the streets had you not employ them. So don't raise yourself. In whatever business you are doing, you are contributing to some extent to national development. And so you see that chickens are ShopRite, you're supplying families. People are feeding on your chickens and you're making the profits and you're providing a service and a product that is helping people live healthy because they're eating food. And it's just a lot of benefit that goes on when you are embarking yourself in investment. But the sad bit with us Zambians is we've let this investment remain for foreigners. They are the ones who are investing. never you underestimate yourself. Investment is not only when you're putting in big money for big projects. No, even for small projects, you are investing. Even selling chikanda, there's one guy who I really admire. He sells chikanda wearing a chef uniform along the roads, give you a piece to taste, and then you buy chikanda from him. That is an investment. He has found his niche, and he puts in his effort, he puts in his time, and is proud of what he does. So in conclusion, this is just a topic to merely introduce you to investment. Like I said, my intent is not to tell you how or where to invest your money, but just to create an appetite for you to go and dig further into investments. And the insights or concepts that I've shared and the factors that you need to consider under the topic of investment will actually help you narrow down on the options that you have for your investments. And successful investments will enable you remain productive for both personal and national gain, like I said. So what is coming up next? I'll give you a few hints on some of the different types of investments that are available for us here in Zambia. But I will not point at any one of them to say, go into this one, because like I said, I don't know your setting. I'm not a financial or investment advisor. I can only give you what is available. I'll tell you ShopRite sells A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and it's up to you to go into ShopRite and buy what is worth your money. So I thank you for listening once again. And like I said, my challenge is, if you have not done anything different in the last 68 days from the many things that you have learned from different presenters, this is the time to do something. It will be very sad if we reach our 100-day mark and find that you have not made a single change. Remember, we said these presentations we do are for national helping the national productivity and also for your own mindset change. You need to be changing. Don't be satisfied with the same status quo if things have not been working for you. Are you adding value to your life? Are you adding value to what you are doing? If not, it's time to wake up and do something. I thank you. Our time is up. Thank you once again for showing up on this show, and looking forward to seeing you in the future. Shalom, shalom.